In the heart of Lamera, a woman fed on the fire of rising stars. But destiny has a way of turning the hunter into the hunted. Welcome to African Tales by Call, where African stories come alive. Subscribe and join our storytelling family. The city of Lamera was a place of rising glass and restless possibility. West Africa's pride, a bustling blend of commerce, innovation, and art. Young dreamers flocked there with CVs, prototypes, manuscripts, and impossible hopes. In the center of its pulse moved Alara Ndala, a woman of breathtaking presence. Her beauty wasn't merely attractive, it was calculated. She walked like a woman who knew the world owed her attention. Her laughter had the rhythm of high-life music, soft and intoxicating. Her eyes, warm brown flecked with gold, carried a depth that hinted at secrets and ambition far beyond ordinary love. Alara did not wander aimlessly. She hunted destiny. She showed up where genius gathered, at tech incubator pitch nights in Victoria Island, at underground Afrofuturist art exhibitions in Lekki, at university symposiums where students argued about philosophy and solar-powered inventions. She was drawn to men whose brilliance was still raw and unpolished, young innovators whose sparks had not yet become fire. These were not wealthy men. Not yet, but they were burning with potential. She studied brilliance the way elders studied the movements of birds before the rainy season. She understood that genius was often lonely. The men she sought lived in worlds others could not follow. Most people loved success, few loved struggle. Alara planted herself inside the struggle, becoming the only person who truly saw them. She listened, not with pity, but with awe. She told them they were destined, chosen rare. In Lamera, where everyone chased shortcuts, she made them feel like prophets. Her apartment, on the 16th floor of a new luxury tower overlooking the lagoon, was a masterpiece of quiet seduction. Locally woven tapestries hung beside modern steel sculptures. Books on innovation and storytelling sat neatly on a wall-length shelf. She burned lemongrass incense at sunset, letting the aroma drift into the corridor. Anyone who entered felt as though they had stepped into a sanctuary. Alara didn't decorate her space. She curated an emotional experience. Her first target was Tunde Ajayi, a fiercely talented architect from Ibadan, known at his design firm as the boy who sees the future. He dreamed of houses that harvested rainwater and skyscrapers that breathed with the wind. When he spoke, his voice shook with conviction. Alara didn't understand every technical term, but she understood dreams. She touched his hand and whispered, "Nigeria will build its tomorrow on your blueprints." He believed her. The second was Kweku Mensah, a playwright from Ghana whose scripts pierced the soul. His work carried the weight of ancestral memory. Characters tormented by colonial ghosts, lovers separated by tradition and pride. He feared his art was too heavy for mainstream audiences. Alara cupped his face and murmured, "The world fears what it cannot contain." That night, he rewrote an entire act of his play, sculpting a female lead with Alara's fire. The third was Sefiu Njorage, a Kenyan coding genius working on an AI system that could predict food shortages and prevent famine across East Africa. He slept beside his laptop and dreamed in programming language. Alara became his anchor. She brought him pepper soup at midnight, massaged his temples when his headaches came, and whispered, "You are building something our continent has never seen." Sefiu fell hard. For a season, Alara floated between these men like a spirit of inspiration. She left no promises, only possibilities. She made each man feel as though destiny had chosen them, and chosen her to witness it. In truth, Alara wasn't chasing love. She was collecting futures, attaching herself to men who were on the edge of becoming legends. But Lamera was not a city of secrets. Artists gossip more than politicians. Tech boys talk when they drink too much palm wine. At a rooftop exhibition one night, Tunde overheard someone say that Kweku had written a play dedicated to a mysterious muse named Alara. A week later, Sefiu arrived at a pitch event and saw Alara holding Tunde's hand, the same way she held his while watching lines of code compile. Then came the night of convergence. Lumera's skyline sparkled beneath a harmattan sky when fate brought the three men to the same rooftop networking event. Tunde, Kweku, Sefiu. Their eyes locked, and realization passed between them like a silent storm. They weren't just brilliant men anymore. They were witnesses, connected by the same woman, the same muse, the same lie of exclusivity. And for the first time, Alara felt something unfamiliar tighten in her chest. Not victory. Not power. Fear. Alara sensed the shift before she saw it. The air changed, thick, charged, like the moment before thunder cracks through the sky. She turned and found the three of them standing together. Tund with his jaw clenched, Kweku with his arms folded like a disappointed elder, and Sephew, eyes dark and unreadable. For the first time, Alara realized she was not the hunter in this moment. She was the hunted. Tund. She forced a soft smile, the one that usually melted resolve. I didn't expect. Tund raised a hand, stopping her words. Save the performance, Alara. His voice was calm, but beneath it simmered a heat that could burn bridges. We compared stories. Your name is the only repeating factor. Kweku stepped forward, his Ghanaian accent heavy with wounded pride. You sat in my audience, Alara. You heard your name called through my characters. Was that not enough? Did you need 3 worlds rotating around you? His voice was not loud, but powerful, like a drumbeat that shook the chest. Sephew's voice was the quietest, but his words cut the deepest. You told me I was changing Africa. He looked at her with a heartbreaking innocence. Was that truth, or just fuel for your game? Alara inhaled sharply. For the first time, her charm faltered. She straightened her shoulders, lifting her chin like a queen wrongly accused. I gave all of you what the world refused to give, belief. Encouragement. A witness to your greatness. Tund's laugh was bitter. Belief doesn't require betrayal. Alara, Kweku said slowly, his voice aching. Brilliance does not need a muse who feeds on it. A real muse nourishes the spirit. You, he pointed at her chest, you harvest it. Sephew backed away from her, as though stepping out of a spell. My grandmother used to say, not every hand that feeds you wishes you to grow strong. I understand that now. Alara felt heat rise behind her eyes. Anger? Shame? She couldn't tell. The rooftop lights painted the men's faces in sharp, unforgiving lines. They stood united, not by love for her, but by betrayal. She had forged destinies, yes. But she had forgotten that when stars align, they create a constellation, and constellations are brighter together than alone. You misunderstood me, she said, her voice trembling despite her effort to sound composed. I didn't use you. I believed in you. No, Tund replied. You believed in what we could become. Not in us. Alara staggered as though struck. The 3 men walked away from her, not one looking back. Their departure felt like a door closing on an entire chapter of her life. The harmattan wind blew across the rooftop, scattering napkins and lifting the ends of her silk scarf. Alara stood alone amid the glittering skyline of Lamera, suddenly aware of the silence that followed the applause of genius. For the first time, she realized something devastating. She had never built anything of her own. As the rooftop emptied, Alara leaned against the railing, watching the lights of Lamera ripple across the lagoon. Her reflection stared back from the glass windows of skyscrapers, beautiful, polished, empty. In the distance, she could see the 3 men walking in separate directions, each already reclaiming his own destiny. Alara swallowed hard. For the first time in her life, the future felt like a road she was not invited to walk. But something fierce sparked in her chest, small, dangerous, alive. If she could inspire genius in others, she could create it in herself. The following weeks were a storm of silence. Alara no longer attended pitch nights or art showcases. She stopped gliding into spaces where brilliance gathered like prayer. Instead, she sat alone in her apartment, lights off, the city glowing beyond her windows like a world she had been exiled from. The lemongrass incense sticks remained unlit. The carefully curated books gathered dust. For the first time, there was no genius to orbit, no mind to mirror. Only herself. One night, her reflection in the balcony glass startled her. Who am I without someone else's dream? She realized that she had never asked herself what she wanted, only what she could attach herself to. In that quiet, a truth rose like dawn. She envied the men not for their talent, but for their ownership of purpose. They created. She borrowed shine from creation. She needed to become her own source of fire. The next morning, Alara walked through Lumra's bustling business district. No makeup, no strategic smile, just herself. Street hawkers called out prices in Yoruba and Igbo. Buses honked. A man selling roasted plantain fanned the coals with a cardboard flap. For once, no one stared at her. The anonymity was humbling and strangely freeing. On a whim, she pushed open the glass doors of a co-working hub called House of Makers. Inside, young Africans hunched over laptops and sketchpads. Someone coded an app while chewing suya sticks. Another girl wearing box braids painted a mural of Maasai women against a neon sky. A group of students argued in pidgin over startup strategy. The room crackled with ambition. Not the kind that needed an audience, but the kind that needed oxygen. Alara inhaled sharply. This was what she had chased in men. And now it was calling her. As she signed up for a desk membership, the receptionist asked, "Company name?" Alara froze. Company? She had no business. No plan. No identity beyond being a muse. Her voice shook. I'm still working on it. The receptionist smiled patiently. Then write the first version. Businesses grow. Names can change. Alara wrote one word, Alara. Just her. For once, just her. She spent days absorbing knowledge. She watched free online classes about entrepreneurship and innovation. She scribbled notes furiously. Marketing, branding, product design, storytelling strategy. She devoured books, really read them this time. She realized she was not empty. She was untapped. Every woman in her bloodline had built something. Her grandmother sold fabric in the market for 40 years. Her aunt ran a mechanic workshop in Abuja, the only woman in a row of men. Alara was not a parasite. She was potential. But potential requires structure. So she created one. She began writing, short essays on creativity and human behavior, lessons she had learned from watching genius up close. She posted them on a small blog titled The Making of Fire. The posts were raw, emotional, honest. One night, frustration hit her like slap. She threw her pen across the table and cried, "Why is this so hard?" Because it was hers. Because creation always demands sacrifice. A month passed. Her blog gained readers. Then dozens. Then hundreds. A popular African journalist reshared one of her essays titled, The Cost of Being a Muse. Suddenly, young creators from across the continent filled her inbox with messages. Your words help me keep going. Thank you for saying what we feel. You speak like someone who understands our struggle. For the first time, Alara wasn't inspiring because she reflected brilliance. She was inspiring because she created value. One evening, while typing in the co-working hub, a woman approached her. She wore a geometric patterned suit and carried a leather folder embossed with the logo of a major investment firm. Are you Alara? She asked. Alara nodded cautiously. I've been reading your essays. We want you to speak at our Pan-African Creators Conference. Alara blinked. Speak. Me? Yes. Your perspective is unique. Not as a creator of code or architecture, but as a creator of ideas. Alara almost laughed. Months ago, she chased brilliance. Now brilliance was chasing her. The night before the conference, she stood on her balcony overlooking Lumra's lights. She no longer saw the skyline as a stage. She saw it as a future she was building. She touched her chest and whispered to herself, You are not a shadow. You are not a reflection. You are the light. And for the first time, she believed it. Here is the continuation. Paragraphs 31 to 45, including the moment one of the men from her past sees her on stage, and the full ending. The day of the conference arrived like a sunrise, slow, inevitable, full of promise. The venue was the Grand Civic Center of Lumera, its walls adorned with murals of African queens and inventors. Inside, rows of chairs filled with young creators from Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, voices eager to rewrite the continent's future. Alara stood backstage, clutching her notes, her heart pounding like talking drums. She wore a bold Ankara jacket, a symbol of the new woman she had become. When her name was announced, applause erupted. Alara stepped onto the stage, light washing over her. For a moment, the sound overwhelmed her. Not because they admired her beauty, but because they respected her mind. She took a deep breath, inhaling the energy of the crowd like oxygen. My name is Alara Ndala, she began, her voice steady, rich. And for years, I mistook proximity for purpose. I lived through other people's brilliance, believing that being near greatness made me great. The audience leaned forward, completely silent. But I learned something. You cannot borrow fire. You must make your own. As she spoke, she scanned the crowd, new faces, hungry faces. But then, in the third row near the aisle, her breath caught. Tund, the architect. He sat still, eyes locked on her, shock flickering across his expression. He wasn't angry anymore. He wasn't broken. He looked impressed. Proud, even. Alara swallowed hard and continued speaking. For a long time, I thought I was a muse, she said, voice softening. But muses inspire from the sidelines. I wanted to build, to lead, to matter. Her eyes met Tund's again. So I stopped chasing genius and became a student of my own gift. Tun's lips parted slightly, as though he had just witnessed a sunrise he never expected. After the session, a surge of attendees approached her. Handshakes, selfies, invitations to collaborate. But her eyes kept drifting toward Tund, who stood near the exit waiting. When the crowd finally cleared, he approached her with that familiar calm, the kind that always masked intense emotion. "You found your fire," he said quietly. "No bitterness. No sarcasm. Just truth." Alara exhaled slowly. "I didn't think you'd ever want to see me again." Tund shook his head. "I didn't come to confront you. I came because someone sent me your essay. I read every word. It felt like watching a seed I planted grow into a tree I never expected." They walked outside into the warm Lamera afternoon. Palms swayed in the breeze, and distant motorbikes hummed like restless dreams. "I owe you an apology," Alara said. "Not just for the past, but for never believing I had a destiny of my own." Tund nodded, eyes gentle. "And I owe you one, too. I never asked what you wanted. I only showed you what I wanted." For a moment, they stood on the steps of the center, the world moving around them, crowds, traffic, announcements, but time felt still. "We can't rewrite the past," Tund said, "but we don't have to be trapped in it." Alara smiled, not flirtatious, not manipulative, just genuine. "So what now?" Tund shrugged lightly with a half-smile. "Now you build. I build. And if our paths cross again, maybe we build something together. Not because you need brilliance, and not because I need a muse, but because we both choose to show up." He handed her a business card. Not flashy, simple, elegant. "If you ever want to collaborate on community design spaces, call me." When his hand brushed hers, there was no spark of dependency, only possibility. A clean, new beginning. As he walked away, Alara felt no desperation, no urge to chase him. Instead, she felt anchored, rooted, whole. She looked at the business card in her hand, not a symbol of possession, but of partnership. If life brought them back together, it would be because of alignment, not manipulation. That evening, back on her balcony, she opened her laptop to a flood of messages. Invitations to speak, offers to mentor young creators, a publishing house requesting a book proposal. She typed with steady hands, purpose guiding each movement. She wasn't reflecting someone else's greatness. She was building her own legacy. Her blog grew into a platform, her platform into a movement. She started mentorship circles for young African women navigating creative industries. She hosted seminars titled Firekeepers, Becoming the Source. Her voice, once used to flatter brilliance, now helped ignite it in others. One night, months later, as she prepared for her largest event yet, she caught her reflection in the glass. She didn't see a muse. She didn't see a shadow. She saw a leader, a creator, a woman who no longer needed someone else's light. Lamera glowed around her, but she glowed brighter. Because Alara had become her own fire. Please like and share, and don't forget to subscribe to African Tales by Call.